everyone, it's Emma and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today's video is going to be the long-awaited life update. So I'll be answering your questions, just kind of give you the rundown of everything that's happened while I've been kind of away. First things first, where I've been the last 2+ years. I've been in grad school, so I've been extremely busy. Social media, I have a love-hate relationship with it. Kind of like a digital scrapbook for me, but at the same time, I compare myself to other people. I'm like, oh, well, they got more likes and comments than I did. And that really started to affect my confidence, so I was like, yeah, we gotta do something about that. The other reason for that is my soon-to-be career. That being said, from here on out, I'm just not gonna be posting like specific details about my life. Next order of business. If you follow me on Instagram, you probably saw that I did have surgery on my wrist. Surgery was actually on July 11th, so I've been recovering as of right now. The day I'm filming this, it's been 7 weeks. Essentially, I had this like mass growing inside of my wrist. So first appeared in 2018. I just remember one day waking up and I was like, why do I feel like I have a bruise on my bone? Turns out it wasn't a bruise. Went to the doctor, did some imaging, did a tiny little procedure, and then decided I didn't want surgery. Fast forward to 2025, decided it was time. It was growing. It was more painful. It was aching all the time. So went back to the doctor. Had more imaging, more tests, all the things. I have arrived at my MRI appointment. It lasted like 40 minutes, and then they took me out of the machine, gave me an injection of some dye, a mini IV, and then they had a syringe and they just pushed it in and then took it out. And then I went back in the machine for some more scans. They discovered that this little mass that was growing inside of me, a dorsal ganglion cyst, that was about 1/2 inch. It's basically like a fluid-filled sac, but the fluid inside it's like a gel, kind of like Jello but thick. So that was what was inside of it, and obviously it like pinches things when you try to move. The stalk of this said cyst was connected to my carpal tunnel, and then it kind of grew through. There's a name for it. There's like these little joints between your little bones in your hand, and it grew through one of those joints. And that's where it was poking out from. And then I also had some swelling in my radius bone, which is this one right here. Roll around to surgery day. It's July 11th now. We get to the center, do all the things, sign my life away, you know the drill. Back, and I was a little offended by this, but they made me take a pregnancy test, and I was like, what on earth? This is like weird. Anyway, so I get in there. It's like a pre-op area. It's just literally curtains. And they have me undressed, put a gown on. At least I got heated blankets. Now that's a plus. That was really nice. Although they didn't stay heated very long, but my nurse kept going back and getting more, so, you know, if you're watching this, thank you for that. So she got the IV started. Blood like spewed everywhere. That was kind of funny. It didn't hurt. It just feels weird. They got the EKG stuff hooked up, blood pressure, you know, the whole drill. And then in comes the anesthesiologist, and he's like, so we are intubating you. And I was like, what? Because I was told I was going to be awake for surgery, and here I am now being fully put under. And I was like, that is not what I signed up for. But too late now, because I'm already hooked up to everything. I was a little shock to the system. And then to do the nerve block, which goes like right in your neck to get to those nerves. I also was not told I was getting that either, but you know, whatever. They come in to do the nerve block. They like, you know, put all that yellow smelly stuff on you. They had like a little ultrasound machine where they like, you know, find the nerve, and then an epidural needle where they essentially fish it down in there, and then there's like a little tube to put medicine through. So they gave me something in my IV, like Versed or something, to make me more comfortable. So all I remember is I turned my neck like this. The anesthesiologist moved my hair out the way. The nurse that was like on the other side holding me still was like, okay, don't hold your breath. And the next thing you know, I wake up and there's like a gauze patch on my neck. So that's that. I don't really remember much else of that part. So then I'm just waiting for my arm to get numb. You know, they shaved it, they cleaned it, all the things. So I'm just sitting there waiting, chilling. The doctor comes in, you know, says hi, whatever. Maybe 5 or so minutes later, everyone leaves the room. They put the little like rails on the bed, and then I'm being wheeled back to the OR. At this point, I was just like, whatever happens, happens. Like, I just was like laying there. They wheel back to this room. It's like, when you think of an OR, it's like bright white, very sterile, very much an OR vibe, if you get what I'm saying. Like what you see in the movies. Bright lights everywhere. So I'm wheeled in there. They lock the bed so I don't roll away. One person is literally grabbing my, well, okay, actually the first thing I remember them saying is telling me to scoot up on the bed, because that was kind of hard to do one-sided because I'm on the other side, but that was an interesting experience. But I got to stay in the actual bed I was in the whole time. I didn't have to move to a table. That's because they took my arm, so I'm laying down, they took my arm and put it on this metal tray, like side table thing, and literally strapped it down with what looked like buckles. Like strapped it so I could not move. They put like a little hair cap on, and then a little oxygen cannula they stuffed up my nose, and I'm like, this is gonna feel weird. And as they were doing that, they injected some like little vial into my IV. I think it was propofol or something, and I was out. They did intubate me, so that means they had to put breathing tube and all that down my throat. So I was basically on a respirator ventilator for the duration of my surgery. So you know, I wake up and I'm in recovery. I couldn't see anything because I couldn't wear contacts. I have my glasses, and I just remember being like this to my dad for him to give me my glasses because I couldn't really speak yet. I was just kind of like coming to. But what I learned is that they couldn't find the cyst at first. It apparently popped, but they found the sac after they did some digging, and then there was apparently a ton of built up thick scar tissue in there, which probably from injuries and gymnastics and whatever. They had to clean that up, put me in like some like dressing. It wasn't really a splint, but it was just like a bunch of like gauze and like puffy stuff, and then ace bandage, and then I was in a sling so that I couldn't move my arm. I went home. I'm home from surgery. Everything is still very numb. I had a nerve block, hence the like little holes right there. That was the actual surgery day. I pretty much slept the rest of that day and probably the next day. 2 days later, I got to take the dressing off and actually see what it looked like. And the following day, I went to occupational therapy for the first time. They just like heated it, like barely moved it because I couldn't move it. I was doing that, plus I was in a splint while I was not doing that for 5 weeks, and this is what the splint looked like. My hand would just go in it and couldn't really move because there's metal in here keeping my hand from moving. So I was in that for 5 weeks. Actually, I went back to the doctor 2 weeks later, and it wasn't looking as healed as he wanted it to, so I had 3 more weeks. Can I say this? So because of like all the scar tissue and abnormal cysts, abnormal meaning it just didn't look like what a typical one that they expected it to look like, they had to do a deep dissection, meaning they had to like go down lots of layers of tissue essentially to get to it and get everything out. They had a lot of internal stitches in there, which was keeping my hand from moving because it was holding essentially my hand together. That was the first 5 weeks. Some stitches finally started to pop. I had someone take out some of them because my body was literally pushing them out of my skin. There's still some stitches and they're probably like gonna pop here and there, but for the most part, I think most of them have popped and they're now just being absorbed by my body. After the 5 weeks of being in the splint, I finally downgraded to like a little brace. This literally just protects my incision site and gives my wrist a tiny bit more support, like if I'm going backwards or forwards, to use when I'm like at work or if I want to exercise or stuff like that. When I'm not wearing that, I have a compression sock. I get like new ones all the time because they get so frayed and worn out, but it just kind of helps with the swelling and keeps my incision protected. So I have that for the next 6 weeks. Hopefully I'm done with all this business, but until then I will be wearing compression socks and the brace and continuing my therapy. That is kind of the whole surgery wrist update. The next thing on the list that has happened is that my little sister got married, which is so weird to say. I won't talk too much about it because it's not my experience to share. I did get a few clips from the event and from like her little bridal shower. It's just kind of like a few little things from my perspective that I will share with you guys. It's not much, but it's just a little bit to kind of like document the memories, you know.
Yes or no? Where's the ring?
I cleaned
cleaned it so it's in the box.
Oh, wait. The original YouTube thing. Don't
Trio.
Just hold
The
it.
Calico Clan.
Yeah.
The Calico Clan. That was our original YouTube name. Hold this. Part of this little life update is kind of like a Q&A. I asked you guys if you had any questions for me, so I have them written down right here, and I'm gonna go through and kind of answer them all. So one person asked my next steps in my social work career, just to graduate. After that, we will just see. What are your plans for the future? Obviously graduate, possibly move out in the next year or so. You know, start dating, just kind of learn more about who I am, be independent, adulting, that sort of stuff. Next question. Can you use your platform to speak up more about issues like Palestine and queer rights? So again, this is something I have to be careful with, just because everyone has their own opinion. I don't want to offend anyone. But first, I'm nowhere near informed enough on these topics to make any sort of comment on them. It doesn't mean they're not important or that they don't deserve to be brought up. I just feel unqualified to do so. So if you want information about that stuff, maybe go find it elsewhere. The last question I have for today is, what has led you to social work? This is kind of like a trifold answer. I've always felt called to like a helping profession, whether that was like teaching or counseling, etc. I know I wanted to work like hands-on with people. I don't want to work at a sit-down desk. I just would get so bored so easily. And I just like, you know, forming genuine connections, that interaction, that sort of thing. Long story short, I wasn't accepted into the program I wanted to for graduate school, so the next closest option was social work, so that is how I kind of landed here. But to be honest, it was a better fit for me anyways. I just didn't see it at the time. It's kind of a blessing in disguise. There is a more personal side to this answer as well, which I will say for another day. I hope you guys enjoyed this little life update, seeing where I've been, what I've been up to, all the things. Hope you'll stick around, subscribe by hitting that red subscribe button down below. You can follow me on Instagram. I'll have my username up here for you guys if you want to stay more up to date with me. I do post a little bit more over there. But yeah, subscribe so you don't miss any future videos, and I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye.